Hello there, this is Steve Putnam. Welcome to Talk of the Town. You know, I was just looking at that wonderful new opening, and I love that opening, Tim. So wherever you are, I approve. I also approve this wonderful studio. I mentioned it in our last show, but we're just so proud and happy and glad to be here in this new wonderful space. So if you ever get a chance and you're out by Cleveland Community College, come take a look at this brand new studio that they've got, because I think you'll be impressed. But I think you're going to be even more impressed with our first guest. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce you to somebody that's been on our show before, and we're so thankful and glad to have on our show again. This is Mr. Joshua Probst. Do you go by Josh or Joshua?
You can call me Josh. That's what
Josh
I go by.
it is. Okay. So for us today, it's Josh Probst. He's the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club right here in Cleveland County. Josh, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I always love coming on your show and telling about what we do. We don't tell our story as often as we should, and it's great, and it's good for people to hear.
Now, let's start a little bit about you. How long? I know we've done a couple of shows together, and I've had the privilege of doing some with you and with Jack Weller, who's also a frequent flyer on our show
Yes,
here,
absolutely.
and some other folks
Dr.
that
Weller.
you've brought in. Tell us how long you've been involved with the Boys and Girls Club here in Cleveland County.
So actually, on October 1st of this year was my 11-year anniversary with Boys and Girls Clubs of Cleveland County.
Oh, wow.
So I've been here for 11 years, but in Boys and Girls Clubs in general, I've been involved since 1997. So.
Now, there's a story there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started out in Hendersonville, North Carolina as an athletics director, believe it or not, and worked with kids in the gym and worked my way up through leadership positions and in clubs in North Carolina and Tennessee, and then moved back home in 2014 to take on this club here in Cleveland County, which is my home club.
Home club.
And so I've learned a lot along the way and met interesting people, and I love the work, and I love impacting kids.
So you've actually been involved in Boys and Girls Club really for a large part of your life.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know I was a quick and funny story. I was in Atlanta at a national conference for Boys and Girls Clubs. It was back last fall, and I was getting my breakfast, getting my coffee, and I hear behind me, Mr. Josh. And I turned around, and there was the face that I saw, I remembered as someone that was about 3 feet tall. and so this young man had come through a Boys and Girls Club where I was the director there, and had gone on to graduated high school, gone to college, got married, came back and got a job in a Boys and Girls Club as an operations director.
Wow.
And so it went full circle, and so it was really impactful on me to see the lives, and you know, that I personally have been able to impact, but also our board and the organization and our staff. It was really cool.
That's pretty awesome. So you've actually, so this has actually been your career as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I love it when people can find that place where what they do is what they love. And you know, I've always heard that if you do something you love, you don't go to work a day in your life. And it sounds like you've not worked a day in your life.
Yeah. Some days are better than others.
Well, that's true, and that's true with any job. And I know it's probably has its ups and downs when you're trying to have the impact you are with young lives. But that was definitely an up to walk into that young man and realize, wow, he's really made it and done well for himself.
Yep, that's why we do what we do.
That's exactly right. That's why you do what you do, and I'm thankful and grateful that you do that. And I hear a similar story. I know Jack was in industry, but he became involved in Boys and Girls Clubs. I remember his story as well. I mean, he'll get teary-eyed talking about all the impacts and the things that he's been able to be a part of in the Boys and Girls Club. So. I applaud both of you for investing so much of your time and effort into this, but we've got a lot to talk about today. You guys are busy, and there may be a lot of folks that are listening today, and that I've got as viewers that may be thinking, you know what? I've always drove by and I've seen the sign Boys and Girls Club, but I don't really know what that's all about. So, just in general, could you explain to us a little bit what is it that the Boys and Girls Club tries to accomplish and do?
Well, in short, we help kids build great futures, and that's kids from all walks of life, and we've been doing that in Cleveland County since the late 1950s. We were actually chartered in 1966.
Oh, really?
So our 60th anniversary is coming up, and that Boys and Girls Club there on Sumter Street was the beginning, and now we've spread out we've spread out more into the county. But what we do, we help kids be responsible, productive, and caring. Those are the buzzwords in our mission statement. Responsible, productive, and caring citizens. Helping kids through programs and through mentoring. Providing positive adult role models during the after school, out of school hours when kids are most likely to get into trouble, most likely to get into behaviors that could be life altering. And so that's what we do. We bring kids in after school. They come from 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock at all of our sites. Kids ages from 6 up to 18. They have a healthy snack. We help them with academics and homework. We help them with programming around making good choices, positive behaviors, and with relationships and responsible choices and citizenship and volunteering and all of those sorts of things to build a well-rounded child that can succeed once they grow up, once they get out into to life and become a citizen. So that's really what we do. And again, kids from 6 up to 18. The common denominator among them, a lot of our children is lower income and single family, single parent families. But that's not all of our kids. Of course, we take anyone, any child in the appropriate age range, and in Cleveland County school system, we take those kids and work with them every day.
Now, I know a lot of folks maybe drive by and think, well, that's more like just a child care facility, but you guys are much more intentional in
Absolutely.
your actions toward the children than that, toward the kids than that, aren't you?
Absolutely, and to be truthful, some people use us as a child care. However, and we serve that purpose. However, we are very intentional. That's a great word because the activities are structured in such a way to sneak the good things onto the kids. The kids come because it's fun. They like to play basketball, they like to play pool, but when they're there, they come and they get their healthy snack, they get homework help, and then they rotate through those array of activities that, in some cases, it's activities that are designed to give them skills and build resiliency. In other cases, it's activities designed to expose them to something they may not have ever done before. STEM activities, science, technology, engineering, math. Kids are building rockets and Legos and robots, or they're working to discover something in the scientific realm that may spur something for them toward a career path. So.
Right. So it's actually it reminds me a lot when you're talking. When I was when my son was coming along and so forth, we got involved in Boy Scouts.
Yep.
And that's very similar to the model of the Boy Scouts. We take them fishing, we take them hiking, we play, but in the midst of doing the fun stuff,
Yep.
we're teaching them good citizenship, how to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly. So you're sneaking the helpful, friendly, and loyal, and trustworthy in science and math and homework and everything else in amongst the, hey, let's go play basketball and have fun. And I know that works when you take, because kids really do respond well to that. So when you give them the things that they like to do, as well as structure it a little bit, what I do find is that kids actually, whether they will admit it or not, and they will never admit it, actually like that structure, don't they?
They do, yep. Classroom behavior is better when there's structure. Kids respond better when there's a structure. They like that.
Yeah, because you also let them be kids.
Yep.
And play and have fun and do that as well. And it does. It reminds me, of what I know in single parent homes, especially. Sometimes it's difficult for the parent who's trying to do all they can to support the family to be there to make sure in the afternoons the kids do the things they would like them to do, and you guys help fill that role and help fill that gap, don't you?
Absolutely, and I like the way that you phrase that, because you talk about a single parent family, doesn't make that family a bad family.
Right.
It makes the family has obstacles that need to be overcome.
Right.
And so we try to step into that gap and fill that gap to help that family raise that child. It really takes a village.
It does, because I remember when I was growing up, when my mom wouldn't be able to do things, my grandmother could step in and
Exactly.
make sure that I wasn't running off and just being completely wild in the afternoons, and I was doing the things I was supposed to do. But if you don't have that other person, and what that you guys can really bolster that family and not only be a support for that child, but also help give that family some stability as well. So
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
and when you think about providing after school and out of school care for kids when parents need to work, we're providing the greater community a benefit as well, not just the child. The parents can go to work and earn a living for themselves and to support their own families.
Because you guys actually have a way to get them from the schools to the facility, don't you?
Yeah, through a partnership allowing the transportation at the local school sites, we have four vans and 2 buses that we put on the road every day to bring kids to that Shelby site. And they're pretty much full every day. That site averages 60 to 70 kids a day in Shelby. And it the other sites, of course, those students are already at school. They're school-based sites, so they move from their classroom to a common space, depending on the school site, to begin programs with their Boys and Girls Clubs.
Right, and has that always been the case that you did the school sites? Because it seems like I remember when you added that, perhaps even.
Yeah, it's been 3 or 4 years now.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And I guess probably the last time that we were talking, we were just getting into that, and absolutely could not do it without strong partnership with Cleveland County Schools, without strong partnership with Cleveland County government to help us to get into that side. But we were faced with a dilemma. We know that the need is there. Kids needed after school programming, not just in Shelby. They needed those programs in Boston and in Kaiser and Kings Mountain and Boiling Springs, and we wanted kids to be able to have an after school option at least in those areas. And, whether that's, it doesn't have to be us, it could be Boy Scouts, could be the Y, could be whatever organization, but we wanted them to have an option. And so we specifically kind of went into areas where that wasn't necessarily the case.
Right.
And we went into Foston Elementary, Kaiser Elementary, Springmore Elementary, and then North and Bethware Elementaries in Kings Mountain. And so now we have 7 club sites, and wow. The program looks very similar. Of course, it's adapted to the space that they have available. The program looks very similar, but in those sites, there's no transportation need. The kids are already there.
They're already there.
And so some of our sites, they're all performing wonderfully, and there's been a great response to putting those programs in those schools. And in fact, some of our Springmore, Foston, Bethware approaching 45, 50 kids per day.
Wow, that's really cool.
And that's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's brought our average daily attendance across all of our club sites to over 250 kids.
Wow.
So
that's pretty awesome. And I want to dig back into that a little bit more, but I know that, every now and again you just have to have a commercial. So this is that point. So
okay.
We're going to stop at the 250 kids, but we're going to come right back to that point. But if you slip away and go to the refrigerator, you have to come back because there's going to be more talk of the town right after this.
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts, Christmas at your fingertips.
It's the shopping event of the season, the Southern Christmas Show, November 13th through 23rd at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Experience Santa's workshop, brimming with timeless childhood delights, twinkling lights, and festive cheer. Buy tickets at southernchristmasshow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
Let's go to the Southern Christmas Show.
Washington Outreach Ministries is one of the largest emergency food pantry in Cleveland County. We feed about 15,000 people a month. We have bi-weekly distribution every other Friday, and we serve them with all type of product, not just food product, but all type of necessities. Anything that they need, we have here and we can supply it. Food is available every day, but we offer bi-weekly distribution so the mass of Cleveland County can come through and enjoy some of the food products that we have here.
Girls and everything.
Hey there, this is Steve Putter. We've been sitting here talking, so you called us smiling coming back because we're having a good time. I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're enjoying today's edition of Talk of the Town. I hope you're also enjoying hearing about the Boys and Girls Club. We've got Mr. Josh Probst with us today, who's the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club. And when last we were talking to him on air, we were saying that you have about 200, 250 that you're up to now, but that's not the full scope of things, is it?
Right, that's not the full picture. That's the average daily attendance. Throughout the year, we'll serve, well, in 2024, it was 540 individuals. So some kids come on school break, some kids come during the summer, and then we have our crowd that comes during the school year. And so that's a lot of impact. And if you think back over since 1966, that's thousands and thousands of Boys and Girls Club alumni that have been, some still living here in the county, some have moved on to greater things, but a lot of impact.
Now, I know you said you went to a conference in Atlanta and you had someone walk up to you and introduce themselves as someone who had been a recipient of the Boys and Girls Club's programming and grown up to be a fine young man. How often do you have folks come back and maybe even contribute and participate in the Boys Club that passed through the Boys and Girls Club?
Pretty often. I come across people in town and just in general business, or when someone comes in to do maintenance on the Boys and Girls Club or something like that, they'll say, "When I used to come here," and I'm like, "What? You used to come here?" And they'll go into a story very similar to what I just told.
That's pretty awesome.
But we also have board members who are former Boys and Girls Club members. Mr. Rodney Borders with the Cleveland County Schools, it was a Boys and Girls Club member. Sam Clark with Gaston County was a Boys and Girls Club member. So we have several of our board members who passed through the program, came back and are serving again.
That is pretty awesome. And I know one of the things that I've been sitting here looking at, and I want to make sure you have an opportunity to talk about, are the results. So I know the question here is, what kind of results have you seen from your efforts? But I was just reading through some of these bullet points here. This is pretty impressive. Tell us a little bit about some of these bullet points that we've got here, about some of the snippets that you can tell us that just kind of highlight the results and the impact that you're making in kids' lives.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm trying to, there's a story behind every one of the bullet points, but
Right.
But to condense it down, academics, we focus pretty heavily on academics. If you can't read, if you can't do math, but by your third or fourth grade year, you can't do those things effectively, then you're seriously limiting yourself throughout the rest of your education, and that impacts the rest of your life. So we focus heavily on reading. We partner with the Gabe DeVoe Foundation to come in and do reading with kids, reading remediation with some of the kids. We partner with other various entities to make sure that we're doing that, and the result that we see this past school year, 99% C or better on report cards, and you can't get much better than that. So because 90% were actually A's and B's, a B or better on their final report cards. We're proud of that. We work really hard for that, and we're proud of the kids for investing in themselves to make that happen. So that's something that's really really exciting, and consistently year over year we're above 80%. But last year was extra special. We see that translates into, for our high school students that stay with us throughout the program, and even if they're just semi-connected, they're doing sports, they're doing scouts, they're doing something, but they come back to the club and stay connected. 100% graduation rate, and turns
That's
into
impressive.
Dozens of club alumni either in the military, in a career, or
Right.
enrolled in college right now.
That's impressive.
So zero pregnancies, zero arrests, all of those things are, again, just the bullet points that we boast about. But
I know, I was looking at that one. You've had 0 arrests, 0 pregnancies. It says dozens of alumni who've earned jobs and gone on to college or joined the military. I mean, these are the things that communities are looking for. Like how, I hear every day on the news, about crime in cities and crime in these places and crime in those places and all the horrible statistics of the world. and they're like, what can we do? Well, here's something we can do. This is actually working.
We can.
These
Boys and Girls
kids-
Clubs work.
It works. These kids are actually avoiding all of these snares and pitfalls that entrap so many other kids that in these and other similar situations. So yes, absolutely. Those are very encouraging statistics to see. Now I know you said you've got we've talked about the fact that you've got the different sites and that are scattered around the county. But I know in today's modern society, listening to the news and everything else, how do you keep all these kids safe? That's got to be a handful, trying to keep all these kids safe every day.
It is, and because that's our first priority, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if all the programming that we do, if they're not safe.
Correct.
And that's physical safety, emotional safety. There are lots of things that go into that, but in keeping kids safe, it starts with our board and our board ensuring that proper policies are in place and that we implement a culture of safety for the whole organization. And we call it layers of safety. So it starts with our board, it starts with our culture and the policies, and then goes through into daily practices. So for instance, every board member and volunteer is required to have a criminal background check, and every staff member required to have a criminal background check prior to working with kids. We have barrier crimes in place. The board has set policies to prohibit one-on-one interactions, to prohibit, to elevate transportation, implements transportation safety practices, to mandatory reporting of possible abuse and things like that. And then all of our staff are trained in trauma-informed practices, first aid and CPR. All of those things are happening simultaneously to ensure that the environment's safe. We staff at a 1 to 15, one adult for every 15 kids. Staff at a ratio like that so that supervision is easy. We practice active supervision. We even implement a third-party safety assessment who comes in and evaluates our policies, our procedures, and our buildings to ensure that we're running a safe operation.
Well,
it is a big deal.
It is a big deal, and it sounds like a lot. And all this that you do seems like it would take an enormous effort. So how do you accomplish all of this? Where do these folks that you that help you with this come from?
Well, we mentioned before, we said it takes a village, and it truly does. And where we fit in is, where Boys and Girls Club fits in is we're a partner in the community. We can't be, we're not the end-all be-all in youth development. We're not the end-all be-all in safety, and we're academics or anything, but we know that together our community can accomplish a lot of things. And so our Cleveland County Schools, as I mentioned, here Cleveland Community College provides volunteers to come out, mostly from the athletics teams and work study students. Gardner Webb, Banco ZK comes in and teaches financial literacy to our students, and we've
A lot of partners.
a lot of partners. A great program with the Banker's House and with Sunridge Farm to offer summer camp activities, and foster grandparents with United Way. We provide older adults to interact with the kids who may not have a grandparent figure.
So I know it takes, I was looking at this and all these things that happen here, I know it takes a lot to keep this going. And you guys have an event coming up that you want to see, the gala that you want to talk about a little bit, but the financial side of this, I mean, how much does it cost for a child to attend? And then talk about this gala and some of the financial side that maybe we could get where the community is a need for you guys.
Yeah. First of all, for a child to attend, our board has implemented a policy that no one should be prohibited from attending based on their finances. So we find ways for them to participate, whether that be a scholarship, whether that be a reduced fee. Someone pays for their membership, but it is $30 a week for a kid to participate, and then $50 a week in the summer. So $30 for the school year, $50 for the summer, a week per the summer. And when you compare that to $135, $145 a week average currently, then that's
deal.
definitely affordable.
Right.
And so that's what kids pay to be a part of the program. How do we fund it? What does it cost us? It costs us around $1,800 per child per year, and so that makes our budget hover right around $1 million. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but it hovers right around $1 million. And we accomplish that through various fundraisers, a golf tournament, a benefit raffle where we give away, it used to be a car, and now it's a cash prize. But we have our gala coming up.
Thought so.
A gala coming up on November 8th. It will be at Uptown Indigo, and boy, we are going all out with this one. It is a tuxedo, dress-up kind of deal at Uptown Indigo. All 3 floors.
Nice.
VIP tickets get you access to extras and roof access. There'll be a couple of bands and a guest speaker and so on. But the goal is for us at that event. We've already had many sponsors, but the goal at that event is for us to get individual donors, because that's when you have individual donors, your funding isn't swayed by a government shutdown or a grant that the cycle ended and that money is no longer there. So you can still deliver programs by diversifying that income. And our board does a great job at raising funds for us.
That's awesome. And again, I know we're coming up on the end of our time, so I want you to make sure you say those dates again and how folks can get tickets and how they can be a part of that, because I know you want to make sure we get that out there again. So again, that's November
8th,
18th,
Saturday.
Oh, 8th, I'm sorry.
November 8th, Saturday. It's at 5:30, and it is at Uptown Indigo. Tickets can be purchased online at www.bgccleveco.org, bgccleveco.org, and or from a board member. The board members will have tickets, or you can call the Boys and Girls Club at 704-471-2582.
That's awesome.
And you can reach out to us to support financially, to volunteer, to just come out and tour the program. We'd love to show people what we do. It's always, I think it's always eye-opening for people to see what happens inside a Boys and Girls Club.
And I hope this has been eye-opening for a lot of folks too, especially some of those statistics about the things that you guys do and the numbers of kids that you serve. So I appreciate everything you do with the Boys and Girls Club, and I hope the gala is a huge success.
Thank you.
All right. And we thank you for watching our show, because our show can't be a success if we don't have viewers. So we're just very grateful and thankful that you're watching today. So if you've enjoyed this show, then make sure you let us know by how? Sending us more story ideas. info@c19.tv is how we get the ideas for the shows here in a large part. The community tells us of the wonderful things that's happening, and then we turn that into people sitting on our furniture here. So if you would, go ahead and let us know the things that you know that are happening, the people of interest that you know everyone else would like to get to know. But until then, I really thank Josh for being with us today, for doing all that he does for the Boys and Girls Club, and I thank you again for being faithful viewers. But until next time, this is Steve Putnam signing off, saying have a great week.